Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa sallallahu ala rasulillah. Barakallahu fikum, may Allah ta'ala bless all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we're going to do a two-part lecture called Lady Rahmah, Causation and Feminism. So, inshallah, first we're just today going to be like a introduction to the lesson, and then next week we will go into some more detail. First of all, Lady Rahmah, she was a righteous Muslimah, a righteous Muslim woman who lived during the third century of the Hijri era. So that makes her from the what group of people?
Say it again.
From the third century of the Hijri era. That makes her from what group of people?
The Salaf.
From the Salaf. No. Not the so-called Salafis. Not the so-called Salafis. Okay, these people who we know as Wahhabis. Okay, but we mean the people who lived during the first 300 years. So that's Lady Rahmah. We're going to talk about her and what happened to her. Also about causation or causality, and understanding what the Islamic position is regarding cause and effect. This is very important for you guys in school, especially in what? Science. Okay, to understand properly what the issue is with cause and effect. And feminism. What is feminism? I know some of the college guys know. I'm giving you my version of feminism, which is basically what they would say. Feminism, it's a Western ideology that claims men and women should have identical rights. So as Muslims, we are not feminist, okay? What do we believe? We believe in women's rights, but we are not what? We are not feminist, okay? So there's a difference between women's rights and feminism. Okay, big difference between women's rights and feminism. Now, I came across something. This is related to this whole thing about feminism. What is one of the dangers of feminism? That's an open question, ya Ahmed Ibrahim. What's one of the religious dangers of feminism?
Contradicts the religion.
Yeah, there are many things that the feminists teach that what? Contradict the religion. By my definition, which is a definition pretty much they would agree with. They want to say that men and women should have identical rights. Does the religion teach that men and women have identical rights? No. Okay? There are certain things that are obligatory upon men that are not obligatory upon women, and certain things that are obligatory upon women that are not obligatory upon men. So we do not believe in identical rights, but rather we say that men have certain rights and women have certain rights. Now for the feminists, where do they think the women get their rights from? Where do they get their rights from? Well, to a certain degree, maybe the government. From men, to a certain degree. From their claim, and this is important because I want to touch on something I came across yesterday. These people, they are basically giving themselves their rights. Isn't that the case? They say that I have the right to do this, I have the right to do that. Who gave them this authority? Themselves. Okay? Islamically, we know that our rights come from the Creator, Allah. For these people, what is overall this ideology called secularism? It's an ideology that says that government and religion should be completely separate from each other. But really what they want is that the government controls everything, even the people, even the religion. So they are making up rights that they give for themselves. And in one year, something will be a right, and then the next year, it won't be a right. You follow me? Their laws keep what?
Changing.
Their laws keep changing. And really a lot of this is due to people being manipulated. They are being changed by a small number of people. They want to influence a larger society, so they push certain ideas. Okay. Yesterday I came across this, and this is related to this whole ideology of, if you want to call it, secularism, which is related to the feminism. there was an article in Newsweek. It was written by a guy named David Beer. And he said, B-I-E-R. He wrote an article entitled, "Why Are Muslim Immigrants Assimilating So Quickly?" So he wants to say, but now this is what they mean by this is something very dangerous. He's praising this, saying, oh, the Muslims are assimilating very quickly into the society. And he said, it was mentioned, I demonstrated using surveys mostly from the Gallup and Pew Research Center that Muslim Americans are rapidly abandoning beliefs widely held in their native countries. So what do they mean by this? They're abandoning beliefs widely held in their native countries and adopting more liberal social and political beliefs of other Americans. So what's that mean? He's saying that they are abandoning the beliefs of their native countries, their values. It should be more values, but the values, if you wish, of their native countries and adopting more liberal social and political beliefs of other Americans. What's going on here? They are adopting Western culture. And to the point that in some cases, what happens? It leads to, they lose their identity. And in some cases, it's going to go even further. It goes to the point of blasphemy. Okay, this is why often we're talking about these issues. And he said, now I don't think the figures are accurate. I think this is a little bit of an I think it is an exaggeration. I'm confident it's an exaggeration. But it's certainly the way things are trending, meaning the way that the society is going and what's happening with the Muslims. And because to get these stats, if you interview certain people, then you can get certain results. In particular, he mentioned that he interviewed a lot, this research was done with the Iranian community. Most of the Iranians in this country are Shia. And many of them, even from within their religion, their sect, they tend to be very ignorant, okay? But it says, according to the Pew Research Center, it mentioned the percent of U.S., this is what they're saying, the percent of U.S. Muslims who find homosexuality, quote unquote, morally acceptable. And it says, and the number, and it increased in 2007 from 27% to 45%. So this whole thing itself is problematic. If a Muslim says that this behavior is morally acceptable, then they committed blasphemy. Then we talk about the three categories of blasphemy. We said that there was what? There was ta'til, denying the attributes of Allah. Like someone denies that Allah knows everything. They committed blasphemy. If they deny that Allah Ta'ala has power over all the creations, they committed blasphemy. If the person, he denied that Allah Ta'ala is the only God, the only creator, he committed blasphemy. So there was ta'til, then there was tashbih. What does tashbih mean? The believing God is similar to the creations. Whether they believe it explicitly, like the Farrakhanis, they say God is a man. Okay, it's a blatant, explicit blasphemy. And then you have other people who believe that Allah occupies space, has size, has a shape, and things of that nature. This is tashbih. Even if they say, I don't believe God is similar to the creations, they still commit blasphemy. So there were two categories, ta'til, tashbih, and what was the third category? Takdhib. Kadhaba means to what? To lie. Takdhib is to belie the religion. The Prophet taught something, X, Y, or Z, about a matter, and then the person says, no, I believe that what the Prophet said was wrong. And this is blasphemy. A person cannot be a Muslim and they reject what the Prophet taught, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's not a Muslim. Islam means submission. Submitting to what the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught. Islam means what? Submission. Submission to the orders of Allah. And we know the orders of Allah through the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they said that almost a 20% increase of people who self-identify. I didn't call them Muslim, I said they what? They self-identify. They call themselves Muslims. That from 2007 to 2014, it went from they said a 27% morally acceptable rate to a 45% morally acceptable rate. It is explicitly mentioned in the teachings of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this homosexuality is haram. You have the story in the Qur'an about the people at the time of Prophet Lut alayhi salam, and they were destroyed because they were engaged in these guys to be polite, to keep it kind of clean, because they wanted to get kissy with each other. This is something that is absolutely haram in our religion. Is this clear? If somebody says that this is acceptable, then they became a kafir. Because why are we saying that they became a kafir? Because they're saying that the Prophet said it's not acceptable, but they dare to say that it's what? Acceptable. So they blaspheme. They don't believe in the Prophet. Believing in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam means if he taught this, then we what? Accept it. So this is very dangerous, and inshallah we'll tie this into the issue of feminism. Because for the Muslims, they know, meaning the opponents of Islam, they know they cannot start to really try to corrupt us on the issue of what homosexuality. And I'm using that word because you guys are exposed to it now in the schools. You hear this word in school now, right? Yeah. So what issue would they try? They know that they really can't promote this full throttle in the Muslim community. But what ideology will they try to promote among the Muslims? The F word. Feminism. They will start with feminism. And then in time, because you'll later learn what happens, that many of the feminists are homosexuals. So they will use feminism to spread this homosexual agenda in the Muslim community. As Muslims, Ya Umar, we have to be aware of what's going on and think ahead. Don't these people spend years studying us? They spend years, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars they have spent in studying Muslims and Muslim culture. Are they studying us so that they can help us become better Muslims, more obedient to Allah? They are studying us for what reason? To look at what? Our weaknesses. To look at places that they can exploit and then make us even what? Weaker. Okay? So we're going to get back to this topic about feminism, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, next week. Now we said the title is what? Lady Rahmah, Causation, and Feminism. We just talked briefly a little bit about Lady Rahmah. We talked about feminism. What was the third thing? Causation. What do we mean by causation? The issue of cause and effect. Okay. Allah Ta'ala revealed in the Qur'an, Allahu khaliqu kulli shay, which means Allah is the creator of everything. Our belief is that there is one God, Allah, there is one creator who is the creator of everything. So we have Tawheed. And if you wish, you can think of Tawheed as two aspects to it. Tawheed is related to the Wahdaniyah, the oneness of Allah. And when we say that Allah is one, we can mean it in the sense that Allah is the one and only God. That no one is the creator except Allah. And we can mean that Allah is one in the sense that Allah is unique without a similar. So you can say one aspect of Tawheed is Tanzih. That Allah Ta'ala is beyond any need or any similarity or need to the creation. And the other is Taqdeer, the belief that Allah Ta'ala is the one and only creator. So this is our belief. As for what the Western tradition, what you guys are learning in science, this we can call it scientific materialism. What do we mean by scientific materialism? We talked a little bit about this last night. A couple of you guys were here. Yes, brother? That's exactly it. The belief in what? Particles. What is this world made up of? What they would say. They would say it's made up of particles. Okay? And they don't believe that there's a creator for these particles. So what do you have? What are you made up of? What am I made up of? Particles. Okay? This table, what's it made up of on a physical level? It's made up of what? Particles. Okay? So these people, they only believe in that which they perceive with their senses. So they say all that exists is particles and energy, and even what the energy they say is made up of what? Particles, like photons and stuff. This is what they say. This is in their mind. So according to them, the only thing that can exist are the material things. And since they're the only things that exist, according to them, then everything of this universe has to be accounted for through a materialistic explanation. Here we don't mean materialism like in terms of consumer materialism. That's another type of materialism. We're talking about a scientific materialism which says the only thing that exists are these material things. For us as Muslims, we know that there is the ghaib. There are things that are beyond our what? Our senses, right? There are things that exist beyond our senses. Somebody mentioned the soul. Do we perceive the soul? Do we physically see it? No. There are things that are beyond our senses. The existence of the jinn. Do we perceive them with our senses typically? No. The angels. These are things that are beyond our senses. So, and simply because we don't perceive something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay? It's not a condition that we touch it or see it that it has to, that for it to exist. The Prophet, it's enough that the Prophet ﷺ told us. Now going back to the belief in particles, because they're saying the only thing that can exist are what? Particles. That's what the things are made of, particles. So according to them, these particles, what did they do? They arranged themselves by themselves to produce more complex systems. Logically, does this make any sense? Don't these people claim to be logical? They claim to be what? Logical. Your eye, what is it made of if we follow their model? It's made up of what? Particles. Okay, now according to their theory, if we follow their theory to its logical conclusion, it's made up of a multitude of particles. For you, the particles by themselves, are they complex according to them? At some point they can't be very what? Complex. And then, Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And then, so according to them, these particles arrange themselves with what? Other particles. And then they arrange themselves in such a way that they gave the eye its ability to see. Does that make any sense? That the particles by themselves arrange themselves and then they produce a complex system called your eye. Not only do you have an eye, but by the will of Allah you're able to what? See with the eye. Now according to them, all of this is the result of particles arranging themselves. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. So this is do you see how this scientific materialism is something? Is this really logical? This isn't logical. We know as Muslims, yes, indeed, things are composed of what? Particles. But who created the particles? Allah Ta'ala. Who gave the particles their properties? Allah. The particle, can it give itself its own properties? No. So we know that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of the particles, of the bodies, and Allah Ta'ala gives them their properties and their characteristics. For the materialists, they're saying that these particles somehow came into existence, or always existed. They can only say one or what? Either they created themselves, or what? They always existed. And we already talked about how to refute that. And according to them, these particles arrange themselves into phenomenally complex systems, all by themselves. According to them. Allahu Akbar. This is really illogical. So when something happens contrary to what is uncustomary, or contrary to what is customary to them, what do they often do? They say it can't what? It can't happen. They say this is impossible. This thing cannot exist. For the Muslim, we understand that Allah Ta'ala has created what is customary, And the one who has the ability, the one who has the power to create what is customary, has the power to create what is uncustomary. And in reality, when we say what is customary and uncustomary, it's largely just due to our own personal experiences. Right? Don't we usually talk about the people from the Amazon jungle? We mention them as an example. If you drop them off, even here, let's say Times Square, that world, if you drop them off in Times Square on a Monday afternoon, would that be customary to them, what they would experience? It would be completely beyond anything they've experienced before. So simply because something might not be customary to you, it might be very familiar to someone else. Okay? And what the customary things don't create anything. The norm, the causes, they don't create. We believe in only one creator, who is Allah. And one of the clear examples of this, of proof that the causes don't create, happened, Lady Aisha, with Prophet Ibrahim. What was the case, one of the miracles of Prophet Ibrahim, that make it very clear that the causes do not create?
So the Kafirs, they wanted to throw Prophet Ibrahim into a fire, so they made a catapult. And so whenever they catapulted it into the fire, Prophet Ibrahim didn't burn. He got out after the fire got extinguished by the will of Allah.
No, I remember, what I remember is that he was catapulted into the fire. And normally what will happen, it was a huge raging fire. Usually when the fire has any time on the flesh, what happens? The flesh what? Burns. The clothing what? Burns. When Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam was catapulted into this raging fire, he did not burn in his clothing and he did not burn in his body. Is this the norm of things? No. But is this something logically? We know what happened, but I'm saying even from these so-called materialists, is this something irrational to believe this? Is this event irrational? No. Does it irrational mean it goes against what? Reason. I mean in reason here intellect. I don't mean reason cause. It goes against the intellect. What is an example of something that goes against the intellect? What's something that the intellect says this cannot happen? It's a contradiction. Sayyid Ahmed, what's an example?
Oh, a square being a circle.
A square that's a circle. This is something that's what? Irrational. Okay? Believing that the Creator wills for fire to burn, is that irrational? No. Believing that the Creator wills for fire not to burn, is that irrational? No. There's no contradiction. Because what do we go back when we talked about causality? We understand that the causes, they don't what? Create. It's just the norm when you have certain conditions, you usually expect certain what? Results. When X conditions exist, then you expect what? Y results. But is it a necessity that when the X conditions exist, it is not a necessity that Y results occur? Because there's only one creator. Okay, there's only one creator. Okay, let's mention something else about this causation to show you that it's problematic. Now, let me mention another thing. That studying the creation and learning how to manipulate it for the benefit, this is good. Okay? But these atheists, when they study the creation, they don't even believe in the Creator. When you study the creation, mashallah, for the believer, for the Muslim, his iman increases. Because he sees the complexity of creation and how things are what? They work. And what's the Muslim say when he does that? He says what? MashaAllah, Alhamdulillah. For the atheist, he looks and he sees particles. And then he's believing these particles are all by themselves what? Arranging themselves. Okay? That for these people with causation, they will tell you that A causes B, which causes C, which causes D, which causes E, which causes F, and so on and so on. So it's like as if for one event to occur, you have to have an infinite number of causes. You follow? Because don't they say, well, for this to happen, well, then they explain it by what? B, if A occurs, and they say, well, that's because of B, and B is because of what? C, and C, isn't it like this? So it's as if for A to ever exist, all of those causes have to line up and produce that result. And of course, they're saying that this is happening all by itself. All right? And this leads to what was called, what we call the infinite, I heard someone say it,
Regression.
the infinite regression. And to show you how illogical the infinite regression is. If you had the dominoes, okay? For the last domino to fall, that would mean that that chain of dominoes has to have a what? Beginning, right? To reach the end, it would have to have a beginning. Okay, to come to an end, it would have to have a beginning. So for this universe, we know that it has to have, the present is the what? The limit of what came before, right? So we know that in order to reach the present, there had to have been a beginning. And the same with the causes. That for this occurrence to happen, there had to have been a what? A beginning, meaning the causation. And we know, of course, the causes themselves, they don't what? They don't create. Okay? So Allah Ta'ala is the creator of the causes and the effects. And we do not refer to Allah Ta'ala as a cause. This is another thing when you talk about causation in philosophy. They will sometimes say God is the first cause. In Arabic it's called illah. We don't say Allah Ta'ala is a cause. We say Allah Ta'ala is the creator of the causes and the effects. Okay? Allah is not a cause. Allah Ta'ala is the creator. Alright, so we don't call God the first cause. This is something from philosophy. I heard one of these what we call quasi-traditionalists, that Walaikum salam rahmatullah, that one of the quasi-traditionalists, I was watching a video today, and he said Allah is the first cause. To call Allah Ta'ala a cause, a illah, sabab, this is kufr, this is blasphemy. So be careful, because you have these guys out there, and they are speaking and mixing things up, and saying kufr in the name of Islam. So in summary, because we're going to stop now inshallah. In summary, we believe in one unique, incomparable creator. That Allah Ta'ala is not similar to the creations. What's the ayah from Ashura 11? It's on the wall there. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٌ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ, which means there's absolutely nothing like Allah whatsoever, and He is attributed with hearing and sight. Okay? What is the golden rule from Dhunun al-Misri? مهما تصورت بذلك فالله بخلاف ذلك. Whatever you imagine in your mind, Allah is different from that. So this is our belief, that Allah Ta'ala is unique, is absolutely different from any of the creations. So we say He's one in being unique, and we said He is one, Allah Ta'ala is one, no gender intended, that Allah is one in that Allah is the one and only creator. وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ. That Allah is the only God, the only creator, without a partner. As for the materialists, their claim, we said, is what? That you have particles that somehow arrange themselves and produce complex systems all by themselves. Now this is an oversimplification, but it's really the essence of what they're claiming. Now for next week, inshallah, we will actually go into some detail about the life, an event that happened, or it's more than an event, about Sayyida, Lady Rahmah. Inshallah, we'll tie it into talking about cause and effect, and also, inshallah, about the dangers. We talk some more about the dangers of this ideology known as, what was the F word?
Feminism.
Feminism. And what do we say? As Muslims, we should be, meaning if we are sincere, We are for women's rights and men's rights, but here we're talking about women. We are for women's rights, absolutely, but we are opposed to feminism. These are two different things. Although the feminists claim to be for women's rights,
They're for women's equality.
which they don't even believe it. Okay. Walhamdulillah wa sallallahu ala rasulillah.